Tem alguém aqui? Não sei, acho que temos que descer.
The eastern Ukrainian region of Donetsk represents some of the most brutal and unforgiving combat terrain in the world. For months, towns like Toretsk have endured relentless artillery barrages, aerial bombardments, and close-quarters urban combat that has transformed once vibrant communities into apocalyptic landscapes of rubble and ruin. Yet even amidst this utter devastation, the war continues to evolve, moving from street-level engagements to a deadly underground struggle fought in tunnels, trenches, and basements. This is the reality for Ukrainian assault groups tasked with the dangerous mission of clearing these areas, where every dark doorway, every collapsed cellar, and every suspicious pile of debris could conceal a determined enemy fighter. What we're witnessing in Toretsk is a microcosm of the broader conflict in eastern Ukraine, a deadly game of cat and mouse played out in the most dangerous conditions imaginable. Ukrainian forces here face not only conventional military threats but also the psychological warfare of not knowing where the enemy might be hiding. The stress of these clearing operations takes an immense toll on soldiers who must remain hypervigilant for hours on end, knowing that a single moment of distraction could prove fatal. The tactics employed by both sides in this environment have evolved significantly since the early days of the invasion. Russian forces, recognizing their disadvantage in open combat against better-equipped Ukrainian units, have increasingly turned to elaborate defensive positions and hidden fortifications. They create strong points in basements, connect fighting positions through tunnels, and booby-trap approaches to their positions. This makes the Ukrainian clearing operations exponentially more dangerous and methodical. When Ukrainian forces identified that group of Russian soldiers hiding in that network of trenches and fighting positions, they faced a classic tactical dilemma. Storming the position directly would almost certainly result in casualties. Using heavy explosives could bring unstable rubble down on both attackers and defenders. Thus began that tense standoff, with Ukrainian soldiers issuing their ultimatum against an unseen enemy buried somewhere beneath the ground. The rules of engagement in these situations have been refined through painful experience. Ukrainian soldiers know that enemy promises of surrender cannot be taken at face value. There have been too many instances of false surrenders being used to lure them into ambushes. This is why the procedures are so strict and why visual confirmation of surrendered weapons is mandatory before any approach is made. The 10-second countdown we heard represents both a final opportunity for the enemy to save their lives and a psychological tool to pressure them into making a fatal mistake. What's particularly notable about these encounters is how they highlight the evolution of infantry combat in Ukraine. The soldiers involved are not just riflemen. They must be experts in close-quarters battle, demolition, psychological operations, and drone operations simultaneously. The individual initiative of junior commanders and even regular soldiers often determines the outcome of these engagements more than any grand tactical plan. The drone threat we witnessed, emerging moments after the initial engagement, exemplifies how the battlefield has transformed. What began as a ground-level confrontation suddenly expanded into a three-dimensional fight. Both Ukrainian and Russian forces have become adept at integrating drone surveillance and attack capabilities with traditional infantry tactics. The successful shootdown of the drone demonstrates how soldiers have had to adapt their skills to counter this ever-present threat from above. Clearing operations in areas like Toretsk follow a meticulous and dangerous routine. Units methodically work through sectors, checking every possible hiding place while maintaining security against counterattacks. The use of tear gas and other non-lethal methods initially shows a preference for capturing rather than killing enemy soldiers, both for intelligence purposes and to demonstrate adherence to the laws of armed conflict. But when those options are exhausted, Ukrainian forces do not hesitate to use overwhelming force. The discovery of that solitary Russian soldier in the basement highlights another aspect of this conflict: the human dimension. Many Russian soldiers found in these positions exhibit signs of exhaustion, poor supplies, and often confusion about their actual situation. Their claims of ignorance about the broader conflict may be dismissed by their captors, but they speak to the information environment in which these soldiers operate. Meanwhile, Ukrainian soldiers must balance professionalism with the understandable anger toward invaders who have destroyed their country. For specialized units like the Azov Brigade, these clearing operations represent their core mission. Their expertise in urban combat and small unit tactics makes them particularly effective in this environment. But even for experienced soldiers, the psychological pressure of descending into dark, potentially booby-trapped basements never becomes routine. Each new entrance could conceal an enemy fighter, an improvised explosive device, or both. The broader strategic significance of these small-scale engagements cannot be overstated. While major counteroffensives capture headlines, the daily grinding work of clearing villages like Toretsk ultimately determines control of territory. Each successfully cleared building represents another piece of Ukrainian land reclaimed from occupation. The incremental progress might seem slow, but it adds up to significant gains over time. What we're seeing in Toretsk is likely a preview of conflicts to come worldwide. The return of high-intensity urban warfare fought with both advanced technology and primitive brutality. The lessons being learned here about combining drone technology with infantry tactics, about clearing fortified positions, and about maintaining morale in nightmarish conditions will undoubtedly influence military thinking for decades to come. For the soldiers on the ground, however, these grand strategic considerations matter less than the immediate task of staying alive while completing their mission. Their courage in facing the unknown time after time in basements and tunnels across eastern Ukraine represents one of the most remarkable aspects of this brutal conflict. As the war continues to evolve, so too will the tactics and techniques used by these soldiers in their deadly dance through the ruins of their country.